Hey guys, it's Julie Malillo. I'm a life coach here in Manhattan. My website is yourdreamslifecoach.com, and today I want to tell you how I quit sugar. It's been over 8 years that I have not purposefully eaten sugar. I think there were two or three times that I accidentally did eat a bite of sugar, but we won't go into those. Those were like traumatic. But anyway, um, this is how I did it, and I'm not giving you guys advice, of course. Like, do whatever you want. If you want to eat sugar, eat sugar. This is just how I did it. So, the first time that I tried to quit sugar, I failed miserably, and this is a common experience. Supposedly, sugar is more addictive than cocaine, and there are actually like mice that would prefer to eat sugar versus drugs. So keep that in mind. Like, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to quit. The first time I didn't go cold turkey, I was trying to like reduce the sugar. And this is what happened. I got hit with this craving that was just like insane. And let me tell you what happened. I was in line at the Bed Bath and Beyond, um, and I was like doing well. It had been maybe, I don't know, maybe a week or something. And I was like trying not to eat sugar, but like maybe like little amounts here and there. I was in line and they have like candy by the cash registers, and I just looked at it and I was like, oh no. And it was like I wasn't even in control. My hands just grabbed this king size thing of Milk Duds, and I like attacked those Milk Duds. I remember this so vividly because like the minute I left that store, I just started like eating. I probably ate three-fourths of that box in just one go, and it was like a big king size box of Milk Duds. Those things are delicious. But I just felt like so upset after that because I really wanted to quit sugar and like it was so hard. So I definitely understand how hard it is. Those cravings really hit you hard. So what I found was cold turkey is the way to go. It was the only way I was able to do it, and I don't know, I just committed to it. And I think the thing that helped me also was that I was having health issues, which I didn't know were from living with hidden water damage. I was in an apartment that had a roof leak that was really bad. I didn't know that that was there, that was affecting my health. So for most health issues, like getting rid of sugar, getting rid of gluten, getting rid of carbs, this helps like almost everything. Just speaking generally, again, I'm not giving you medical advice, but generally, like for example, Lyme disease, the diet for that is no sugar, no gluten. Um, so I really was motivated to get rid of sugar because my health was declining like so rapidly, and I was getting massive anxiety. So when I was able to cold turkey quit the sugar, I stopped having panic attacks, which was like huge. I was having panic attacks like once a week, which I didn't realize what that was, but it was actually that I had chronic infections, things like Lyme disease that were actually regrowing on a cycle. So when it would basically regrow, I would get hit with this panic attack. It was happening like the same time every week, and it was nothing scary going on in my life at all. It was like always a just like a calm evening that would happen, and like it was not psychological. It took me years to figure out that it wasn't psychological. Especially being a life coach, you know, I tend to like see a lot of stuff as being psychological, but this actually was a physical thing. Cut out the sugar, panic attacks went away. I still had some issues with like phobias and things that had been formed for me while I was having the panic attacks, because you can actually pick up some phobias when you have anxiety problems like that. But I just didn't have any more random panic attacks after I cut out sugar. So I've stuck with it now for 8 years. And so you can see that I had a pretty clear motivation for wanting to get rid of sugar, which always makes it easier. If you have health issues, anxiety, something like that, and you know sugar can help, it makes it easier. If you just have a vague idea of like, oh, I sort of kind of want to be healthier, then it's a lot harder to stick to it. Um, but sugar has also been linked to like heart disease, heart problems. Like basically, they figured out that it wasn't saturated fat or fat at all that was causing all these heart problems. It was actually sugar. And that just didn't seem to get very much media attention. I don't know why, um, but it's what the research found. But very few people know that these days. If you ask most people on the street, they'll tell you that it was eggs or steak or something that will harm your heart. And it's just that's not what the studies show. So, if you do want to quit sugar, I would definitely say cold turkey. That's what worked for me. Maybe you can handle reducing the amount, but I couldn't. It seems like just that craving that I had, it was so overwhelming. Like, I mean, I could see that sugar actually is a drug at that point because I just felt like I wasn't even in control of like buying those milk duds and eating them. It just sort of like overtook me. But once I made the decision to go cold turkey, I could see the benefits were huge and the drawbacks were like next to nothing. So with something like sugar, people feel so deprived. They feel like food is a reward. They want the reward. They want a treat. Um, and I never really felt that way. I felt like every day I'm just choosing what I'm eating, and I don't want to eat stuff that's bad for me, especially knowing as much as I know about sugar, all the bad things it does to your health. And also, it impacts like aging, it impacts your skin, it can break down your collagen. Um, there's a lot of good reasons to not eat sugar, but what I did was I switched to stevia, and you want to always get a really good, clean brand. So you want to research that a bit. Um, Personally, I like Sweet Leaf Stevia. Trader Joe's brand is good. You have to avoid some of the cheap ones that have like fillers and additives in there that aren't good. And you should never eat stevia if you have a ragweed allergy because some people are allergic to that. Um, but yeah, I never had any trouble with stevia. Stevia, some people say, can have like oxalates. Oh man, the whole oxalate conversation. But and yes, oxalates are a problem if you're living in mold and et cetera, et cetera. Basically, oxalates are in a lot of vegetables. So if you're eating a ton of vegetables, you want to be careful to not have too many oxalates because they can be linked with like kidney stones and things like that. So you want to be careful of that. The other thing that I personally like is xylitol. Xylitol is a fake sugar. Basically, they like took the sugar molecule and then they made it again, but without the sugar part, if that makes any sense. So it is kind of a lab experiment and it's not natural. So you have to be aware of that part. For me, with the research I did, I felt it was beneficial for a few reasons. For you, maybe it's not. The most important thing for xylitol is that it looks like sugar. Stevia is more of just like a powder. It doesn't really look like sugar. Xylitol is granular. It looks like actual sugar. It's better to get it organic and from birch trees versus getting it from GMO corn that's not organic. Obviously, that's the better way to go. A couple of things to know about xylitol though is that xylitol can open biofilms, which if you have chronic infections, you probably have biofilms all over your body. They can be in your gut, they can be in your sinuses, they can be anywhere that infections are. Infections can hide in biofilms. So the problem though, like for a lot of people that have like Lyme disease or gut infections, if you open up those biofilms where those infections are sort of hiding, then the infections can flood out very suddenly and that can make you really sick. So you really want to be careful. And I mean, always ask your doctor about these things. Um, So when I first started taking xylitol, I started feeling awful because I was actually opening these like biofilms from all these chronic illnesses that I had. Um, and I would get like just I would just feel terrible and I couldn't figure out why, and that's what was going on. So if you do take it, you want to start out taking just a teensy tiny little bit, and if you have any like medical conditions, like ask your doctor. Obviously, everyone should know that by now. Um, but then once I kind of like improved my health, it's to the point now that I can eat a lot of xylitol and I like totally feel fine. It's no problem at all. But I'm always aware of that because a lot of people have gut infections these days. You have bad bacteria in your gut, or you have biofilms. Now you can have biofilms even on your teeth, which is one reason that you get cavities is you get like plaque is a biofilm, for example. So xylitol is also good at breaking down those biofilms. So if nothing else, you can just kind of put it in your mouth and just hold it in your mouth and then spit it out. And I do notice that it will help like give your teeth that clean feeling. Like not exactly just from the dentist clean, but definitely a lot cleaner than normal. So it can help with cavities too. So xylitol has some benefits. Stevia's benefit is mostly just that it tastes like sugar and you can replace it when you bake, or you can put it in your coffee or whatever. Um, Now stevia, there was some research that it could help with Lyme disease. From what I've seen, it really doesn't kill Lyme disease in the body. It kills Lyme disease like in a test tube. So that's important to know. It's not a cure-all for Lyme disease. And we're talking about the liquid stevia. So you can get stevia in a powder or a liquid form. The liquid form, you just put a few drops like in your coffee or whatever. Um, the liquid form was shown to open biofilms and possibly kill Lyme disease, but this was in a test tube. So I think in the body, from what I've seen on my like chronic health groups that I'm in online, a lot of people did find that it was just like xylitol opening biofilms, which can be good if you're trying to open those on purpose to kill the infections in there, but that's bad if you open too much because infections can flood out and also heavy metals can flood out, or really whatever your body stored in there. So biofilms happen either because there's a pathogen that's making their own biofilm to hide. So they're like a criminal hiding from the police, and they like put sort of a, you know, almost like a tent over themselves so the police won't see them. That's like how the pathogen makes a biofilm. But your body makes its own biofilms too to store dangerous stuff in, like chemicals, heavy metals, anything like that, or even infections that it's just not able to fight right then. It's like, I'm going to save this for later for when I have more energy. I'll just put it in a biofilm. So you can open too much of that at one time. So, like Stephen Berner, who's the herbalist, Lyme disease expert who wrote the books that I followed to use herbal medicine for Lyme disease, Stephen Berner says, be careful with opening biofilms, and pretty much plants in general will open biofilms. So whether you're using herbal medicine or just eating a ton of vegetables, that can open biofilms. So like he says, be careful with that. And it's not always a good thing to open them. You can also chip away at those infections by like using these protocols that he's put together for Lyme disease. Again, that was Stephen Berner with a Stephen with a PH, and he has a second edition book on Lyme, and then he has co-infection books. The second edition is the one you want, though. It's the most updated one. So what I do, since it's been 8 years, I used to bake all the time, and I would be able to pretty much recreate recipes that tasted almost exactly like the original recipe. So I never felt like I was deprived or missing out. I would make like blueberry muffins, I would make little cakes, I would make pancakes, waffles, and I would use gluten-free, sugar-free recipes that I would make. I think I still have my blog on the web. I haven't updated it in forever. I think it's like Julie Makes Healthy Food, I think. I need to update that. Like, it's been such a long time, but because I was baking these things, I didn't really feel that I was missing out, especially because I could recreate like 99% of sugary stuff. The only thing I couldn't do would be to make like a caramel or a lollipop, because for those you need the sugar crystals to be boiled and then they transform into like that candy, like whether it's stretchy or a lollipop. There's really no other way to do that. You can try with xylitol. It's really hard. Xylitol does give you a little bit of a sugar texture. It will thicken it just slightly. So you can get to almost like a syrup, but you can't get fully to like a lollipop stage unless maybe you're a chemist and you have some special equipment. I don't know. Um, so I never really felt deprived, and I also felt like, well, no one's forcing me to do this. Like, I could eat sugar if I wanted to, but I don't want to eat it. Like, I know all the drawbacks. I know all the benefits of like how I'm eating. Um it's weird. I don't believe in like moderation with certain things. Like, I don't believe in moderation with heroin, for example. I would never do heroin. I've never done drugs. I don't plan on doing drugs. So why would I do that in moderation? Does that make sense? Like, in my mind, the negatives for something like heroin are, it's such a long list of negatives, and there's like, I guess the only positive would be you'd get high for a second, but with this huge list of negatives, right? That's pretty much how I feel about sugar. Maybe a little less dramatic, but in my mind, it's pretty similar. Like, what is the benefit to me to eat sugar? The only benefit is in the moment. I'm like, ooh, this is good. But I can get that same feeling of this is good with stevia or xylitol. So again, I'm not telling you guys that you should do this at all. You have to make your own health decisions, and it is different for everyone. If I was fully healthy and didn't have any health issues, would I have stopped eating sugar? Like, probably not, because my list of pro and cons would have been different. So I don't know. Um, right here, I have actually some Lily's chocolate, which is something I'm a big fan of this. Now, I don't know the quality of their stevia. I don't know where they source it from, but this is stevia chocolate. It tastes almost identical to regular chocolate. Let me show you the package. They have this at like Whole Foods and stuff. Now, this can be very expensive, is the only thing about it. So I usually try to make my own chocolate because it's a lot cheaper. My own chocolate does not taste as good as that. I don't know the ingredients in this. It does have some erythritol in here, which is a sugar alcohol, and that's not as healthy for you for sure. But if you're gonna get a fake chocolate, this is probably, in my opinion, the healthiest. Aside from that erythritol, sugar alcohol, it has zero sugar in here, and it's basically just chocolate with stevia and some vanilla extract. And I don't know if it has any other chemicals in there that might be hidden. Sometimes they do have hidden chemicals. I don't know, but nothing else is listed on there. So anyway, yeah, it really does taste like the real stuff. And like, people I don't think would know that wasn't real, but in my experience baking my own stuff using mostly stevia, I didn't really get into the xylitol until, I don't know, the last few years maybe. People don't know. I would make things like peppermint patties. I would use like a coconut oil flavored with like peppermint and stevia, and then I would make that as the center, and then I'd coat it with chocolate. That I would make my own chocolate using stevia, and I would use like cocoa butter and baker's chocolate. Anyway, I have like directions still on that blog, Julie Makes Healthy Food, which I don't even know what's on that blog, guys. Like, I need to like edit that. That's a work in progress. But then I've been doing carnivore for over 6 months now. Yeah, I haven't worked out. That's all from meat. Um, so I haven't been baking. Um, I like don't eat carbs right now, but I do occasionally eat a bit of this chocolate because for the stuff I'm dealing with now for my mold illness, interestingly enough, chocolate is helpful. Of course, depending on your situation, what kind of mold you had, there's a lot of different factors, but in the protocols that I make for myself, a little bit of chocolate is very helpful for me. So I'm happy with that. I also do eat a little bit of Manuka honey right now. I should have brought that over here, but Manuka honey is like super expensive, but it has antibiotic properties, antiviral, antifungal. It's just amazing. Sometimes people even put it on wounds to help them like not get infected, or some people use it for MRSA and antibiotic resistant bugs, because you guys know we have a big problem with antibiotic resistance, which means that the drugs don't work anymore. So when you go to the ER and you have a big wound that's infected, they're like, oh, sorry, the drug doesn't work. We're going to have to cut your arm off. I'm not being dramatic. Like, that's how it can go down if it gets bad enough. So things like Manuka honey can be really great. I don't like eat tons of it just because it's so expensive. It's like $20 for like a little jar at Whole Foods. And then if you get the higher rating, it can be up to like $90 for a little jar. So it has like the one I have is like 24 plus. They're rated in different ways. I don't know that much about it, but basically the higher the number, the more stuff is in there that kills bad stuff. Okay, so the honey in some cases, like some research shows that it's stronger than some antibiotics, which is why it's so expensive. So anyway, I eat a little bit of that Manuka honey, but my diet right now, I'm mostly doing the carnivore, relaxed carnivore is what I do. So I do like meat and then dairy products and no carbs of any kind. I have had a few avocados in the 6 month period, and I've like dabbled with the idea of bringing vegetables back, but I just didn't really feel excited about it. Like I had an avocado, I'm like, okay, that was good, but I didn't feel this need to like run out and buy a bunch of vegetables. So I'm kind of just like listening to my body and like what it wants, and I'm not very black and white with these things. It might seem like it because I'm like, I haven't eaten sugar in 8 years and I'm only eating animal products, but I'm actually, in my mind, pretty flexible because every day I'm just sort of like, well, what do I want to eat? What would be best for me today? What's going to make me feel the healthiest? And no sugar and animal products is kind of what I keep coming back to. So for me anyway, quitting sugar, it's like a daily decision. It's not something that I'm like gonna do for the rest of my life. I'm not black and white about it. If I was to eat some sugar, I wouldn't beat myself up. It would just be a choice. Like it would be like, oh, I decided that the pros of that outweigh the cons. That would be as simple as it would be. But for me right now, it's like every single day I just can't think of any good reason to like harm my health, to eat some chocolate that I could just eat like that tastes the same as this. I could eat the same thing and then it would be bad for me and it would harm my health. So like why would I do that? It's as simple as that for me. So I don't really need any like discipline for this kind of like diet goal. It's just I'm doing what I want to do. And so I want you guys to remember that. Like you don't have to do something just because like someone else is doing it. You should do what you want to do because it matches you, your goals, your health, And like there's no reason to like beat yourself up. It's just you're doing what you want to do, right? So just make your choice every day for what you want to do, and then you feel good about it. Um, and I just feel like there's a lot of people out there that do beat themselves up, and they're like, "Oh no, I had, some sugar, or I had some carbs or whatever." Just make your choice, and own your choice, and don't beat yourself up about it. This isn't some kind of contest. It's just like your life and what you want to eat. So that's what I did with sugar. As I said, I'm happy with it, and I don't have any plans to eat sugar. I did have those few times that I accidentally ate something with sugar, and I remember what they were. One of them was actually sushi. I had no idea that sushi had sugar in it. I used to get like brown rice and just the fish, and I thought that was fine. And then I had this friend who was the sushi chef. That's a hard sushi chef. That's like a tongue twister. Try to say it. It's harder than you would think. Who told me that they put sugar in the rice and they put sugar in the seaweed salad and they have green food coloring in the seaweed salad, and I was shocked. And that's how the rice sticks together for the sushi roll, is sugar. So I stopped eating that. And then I also, one time, I bought a yogurt and I didn't look carefully. I've done this a few times actually. I didn't look carefully at the label, and it was not plain. It was like vanilla. One time I got a strawberry. I don't know how I did that. Um, So the strawberry, I remember I just like took a bite of it and like just swallowed before I even like figured out what was going on. And then I felt really upset about it because what I realized when I looked at that strawberry yogurt, it didn't even have strawberries in it. It had yogurt, food coloring, and strawberry flavoring. And I could have easily made the same thing that would have probably tasted better using xylitol or stevia and the yogurt and some kind of flavoring. This flavoring tasted like so chemical that I was like, there was no reason to eat that. There was no benefit to eat that because I could make the same thing. That was annoying. Luckily, it was just like one bite, but ugh. And then recently, I actually bought a yogurt and I bought the wrong one. So I just try to give it away when I do that. I'm like, hey, want some yogurt? Here's the yogurt. Um, but yeah, that's what I've been doing. I'm happy with it. I feel like for chronic illness, it's just really great because sugar feeds all kinds of different pathogens. So it just has really helped me to kind of keep anything from getting too out of control, which it definitely could have because I've had a lot of health challenges over these years. But yeah, in general, cold turkey because sugar is a drug. And like I said, these mice were eating the sugar instead of the drugs, which shows you like it's that tasty that mice were picking it over drugs. So but that said, I'm not telling you what to do. There's no shoulds in life. You know what I mean? It's just your choices, your decisions, and your own pro con list in your own mind and what outweighs what. And I used to have like a big sugar addiction. I wasn't someone who was like, oh, I don't like sweets. I don't understand those people. The people who are like, oh, I don't like sweet things. No, I'm like, no, I used to like have candy bars in my purse. I would go out on the weekend and I would like start the night with like a Milky Way dark. I'm not to give you any ideas. That stuff is really good though. And then we would go out, and a few hours later I would go in a deli and I would buy a second candy bar some of those nights, like in my 20s, and then I'd go home and I would I'd order food that was just full of like carbs, and there was just so much sugar in that. It was really bad. Um, so yeah, I was very, very sugar addicted. I probably ate some sugar every day. I remember like in my 20s, I was at this ad agency and they had this huge bowl of like Halloween candy, and I just kept walking over and getting another piece and getting another piece because it wasn't very far from my desk, and it was like in my my line of vision. So as I was working, I just kept looking at it, and I was eating those little candy bars like all day because when it wears off, like you want more. And I just remember thinking like, this is crazy. I can't stop eating this. Um, and for me, I wouldn't really gain weight, but that doesn't mean it wasn't affecting my health. I'm sure it was affecting my health. So anyway, cold turkey worked for me. I don't do this in a very black and white way. I don't like beat myself up about any of it. I don't feel like I'm winning. Ooh, I'm winning. No, I'm just like choosing stuff I want to eat that day. And I think like when there's no pressure, it's really easy to stick to it because I'm not trying to like do anything. I'm just like, well, I'm going to pick the food that is the least destructive to me, the same way I try to avoid like food chemicals and stuff. It's not because I think I'm winning. I'm not black and white about it. It's just like whenever I possibly can, I'll choose the organic thing. Whenever I possibly can, I'll choose um, not to eat sugar, which is, I mean, for me, it's all the time because there's really no time that I want to eat sugar, right? If I really want to eat sugar, I'll just eat something like that or I'll make something. Of course, right now I'm not baking, which is why I get the chocolate or I make the chocolate myself with baker's chocolate and cocoa butter and then stevia or xylitol. And then it's kind of messy. You have to melt it, mix it together, put it in some kind of mold or some kind of container. And it is kind of messy. So I tend to do that in like a bigger batch. That chocolate gets everywhere. I feel like I find little pieces of it for weeks. So that's the benefit of just buying it. But yeah, I don't feel like I'm being deprived, especially because if I wanted to eat it, I could. I just would probably be damaging my health a lot. And like, why would I? I mean, I could do heroin too, but why? Like, why would I do it though? Like, that's the kind of feeling I have about it. How would that benefit me, right? It doesn't at all in any way. And I can get the same sugar feeling eating other stuff. So that's my way of seeing it. I'm not saying you guys have to see it the same way. I just thought I would share because I know there's a lot of people out there that are trying to kick their sugar habit, and it's really hard, as you know from my milk dud story. Like, so that's why cold turkey was good for me. But for you, it's like you really have to think deep about, do you really want to not eat sugar? And if so, why? Because if you know your motivation, you don't need discipline. Like, I don't need any discipline to not eat sugar. I just know in my head, like, yeah, I'm gonna feel terrible if I eat sugar, so I don't want it. I'll just eat something else. It's as simple as that. I don't really believe in discipline. I think I have another video on that. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. My name is Julie Malillo. I'm a life coach here in Manhattan. My website is yourdreamslifecoach.com. If you want a session, just fill out the contact form on there. Tell me your situation, and then I will send you rates, and we can set up something from there. I work with like entrepreneurs, with CEOs, artists, actors, like people doing unusual things that aren't really the normal path. So they need a bit more support simply because they're doing like really hard, really big things. So if you're interested in coaching, go there. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.